Shalom. I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for tuning in with Welcome to Be Better. Always remember to study to show yourself approved when walking with the Most High Yah and with Yahushua HaMashiach. Make sure you always walk strong by staying ahead and being in this Torah. I'm hopping on here today because I wanted to talk about overused words. One of the most overused words in scripture is the word commandment. So here's my Hebrew study on the word commandment. Um, Now, understanding that with the Hebrew words, they had about they didn't use a, a vast vocabulary like they have today. So they numbered the amount of words that they used, but their words will also mean several different things depending on the context of what they hear, what they see, um, what they're currently doing at a given point in time. Remember, there's only 22 letters in the Hebrew native language, which would be more of Aramaic. Remember that Hebrew is a nationality, not a language. So when you hear it in the scripture, when they say he spoke in the Hebrew tongue, that just means that he spoke to the Hebrew children in their tongue. It didn't say that the Hebrew was the language. He was just saying that he was talking to the Hebrew children in their tongue, which during that time was more of a Aramaic Canaanite tongue during that time frame. Now, I'm hopping on here mainly before because there's about 15 different words that I've pulled out to talk about in reference to the overuse of the word commandment. So we're going to start off, and remember, most of the time when people hear the word commandment, they're thinking about the Ten Commandments. But wait till we get to it when you find out it wasn't called commandments. It was actually called something else. Then it changes your whole narrative on how you look at things. It changes the aspects of certain verses that makes them hit harder than what it was hitting before. Now I made the letters up here big so that uh, it can be seen on the screen. I hope everybody can see it. Um, So the first word, the Hebrew word, is H6310, which is the Hebrew word pe, which is also letter pe, um, which would which is defined as the mouth, whether literally, well, as that means of blowing, whether literally or figuratively, particular speech, edge, portion, side, so on and so on till you get to appointment, asset, command, eat, edge, uh, word, sound, speech, talk, and you'll see more of those come out as the dialect changes when the term commandment is used. So this first one we're looking at in Genesis 45:21. And the children of Yasher did so, and Joseph gave them wagons according to the commandments of Pharaoh, and gave them provisions for the way. Now we see here that the word commandment is here, but when we do our Hebrew study, we have to look at the word itself. Like, what is the word that's given to us, which is the word pay, which I'm showing, pay, which I'm showing you up here, and it shows where it's derived from. But we can also go look at the dictionary where it shows. This is shown from the Brown Driver's Bridge uh, definition and lexicon, which means mouth, whether it's mouth of man, mouth or organ of speech of an animal, the opening of something, the orifice of something like a river, well, extremity in, or it can be like the mouth of the Most High Yah. Also, another definition would be a weight equal to one third or of a shekel. And again, it depends on the context of the verse. So, also in the study, what I like to do is compare other Bibles. Now, as you see here in the scripture 2009, and the sons of Yisrael did so, and Joseph gave them wagons according to the mouth of Pharaoh, and he gave them food for their journeys. And then when you look at some of the other writings, everybody stuck with the word commandment. And then we have to understand that when a group did not have an understanding of what one word mean, they just stuck with one base word, like they stuck with the base word commanding. If we look at Strong lexicon says the same thing, the mouth, and it goes more into details of how this word could be used in different ways. So that was one example of it, and we can look at numbers 9, numbers 9 and 18. And what we're looking at here is from the King James version. All right. So here at Hebrews 9:18, we're looking at the commandment of Yah, the children of Yasher journeyed, and at the commandment of Yah, they pitched as long as the cloud abode upon the tabernacle, they rested in their tents. So again, we look at what is being used here. Here we see 86310, which means the mouth, and here again, it shows the mouth again. So when we look at this, we're saying at the mouth of Yahweh, the children of Yasharel journeyed. At the mouth of Yahweh, they pitched as long as the cloud abode upon them, the tabernacle, they rested in their tents, meaning from the mouth of the Most High, meaning this is where he spoke to them to move, they went on their journey. When he spoke to them to stop and pitch their tent, coming from his mouth, pitch your tent. They pitched their tent, the cloud that the Most High was in, stayed abode, and they rested in their tabernacles. Another word that they use for commandment is Shavah, which is 668. This word was used 494 times. In this is also defined as um, to constitute, enjoined, appoint, bid, charge, um, command, not commandment, command or send a message, put or set in order. So one of the scriptures I pulled about to show an example would be Exodus 34 and 32. Exodus 34 and 32. So afterwards, all the children of Yasharel came nigh, and he gave them in commandment all that Yahweh had spoken with him in the Mount of Sinai. So here, this word is uh, the word placement here is actually order, in order. That's the word that's used there because of the way the context of the scripture is being given. Now, here, when you reread it, it says, and afterward, all the children of Yasharel came nigh, and he gave them in order all that Yahweh had spoken with him in the Mount of Sinai. You see how that changes? And most of the time, we hear people commandment, they're still going to refer to the Ten Commandments because that's what's been ingrained in their minds. So that gives you an example of how the word is being overused. Now, we can look at the comparison on it, and you can see where some would say they use the term commandment, but overall, majority of everybody else used commandment. But in this context here, the way that when you read further on in that chapter, the Most High gave Moshe a certain, he gave him instructions, and in that he gave them to him in a certain way, and in that way was a certain order. So in that order, he gave it to them the way he received it. So when you look at it, and afterwards all the children of Yasher came nigh, and he gave them in order all that Yahweh had spoken with him in the Mount of Sinai. So, you know, this is something that was used 494 times. And we have to understand the difference in the word that's being used. We have to understand the context of the uh, scripture that's being written at that was being said at that time, or when you're reading it at that time, what is it actually saying? So we can also go and look at the word, which is Hebrews 6680, and we can go and look at the dictionary, the lexicon, to see what it means. Shovah, which what I just read, to constitute or to enjoin, appoint, bid, charge, give in, send, command, or send a message, put or set in order. We can look, that's in Strong's. We can go to Briggs, driver and Brown drivers and Briggs, and you'll see to command, charge, give orders, lay charge, give charge to, or like I said before, order. So he gave them in order all that Yahweh had spoken with him in the Mount of Sinai. So let's move on to the next one. So here's another one, H4687, where they have the word commandment in place of the word command. So mitzvah, let's say 6680. I mean, it's derived from 6680, but the word in this context of scripture is 4687. So let's go to Leviticus 26 and 15. Now, when we look at this, this is going in reference to the instructions about bodily discharges. But when we look at 20, I'm in the wrong chapter. My bad. All right, we're in 26. This is talking about blessings and obedience. All right, so when we go down to 26:15, let's highlight this here, 26:15. Now, again, this word is mitzvah. Now, you already seen where they use commandment, and we saw shovah, and we also saw pay. Now, this is the third word that's being used, mitzvah or mitzvah, which means a command, whether human or divine, and um, law, ordinance, and precepts. And you will find a lot in scripture where mitzvah is, where it has either replaced the word statute, it replaced the word ordinance, or it replaced the word judgment, or it replaced the word precept. But as you continue on in your study, you will be able to line it up based off how the scripture is being read. Now, for example, this is for 84687. 26:15. But if ye shall despise my statutes, or if your soul abhor my judgments, so that you will not do all my commandments, but ye ye break my covenant. Now, of course, when we go and look at the studies here, we go and look at what is this word saying. So in this context here, it's not saying commandments, it's saying you're breaking my command. You're breaking my command. So normally when I look at this, I'll go and compare it to other verses in the scripture. So you'll see King James version with Apocrypha, it says commandments. If you look at the scriptures 2009, and it says, if you reject my instructions or my laws, you see how they replaced laws when it was statutes, all right? And if you being loath my right rulings, so that you do not do all my commands. And this is where they also have commandments, but break my covenant. So here's where also you always got to remember, stay in prayer. Seek guidance. Let the Ruach guide you, and he'll never steer you wrong. So when we go back into this, we can look at the same thing like when we look at 26:14. But if you will not hearken unto me and will not do all these, now it has the word commands here, commandment here. However, it's the context with what's being going on. So we already see it, he issued statutes and judgments. So here he was talking about the ordinance, or some would say precepts. But again, when I go in here, I also look at the comparison to see what everybody else has, and then I will pray and ask for what is the correct words. Now, again, they're using commands or commandments. Now, it's possible that commands could have been used. However, when we go and look at the context of it, they always pull out one or the other. So if there's statutes there, if there's judgments there, that means ordinance was somewhere around there, which also mean precepts was somewhere around as well. Now, um, in this context here, this could say commands, or it could also say ordinance, because we are talking about blessings for obedience, right? Punishment for disobedience. Now, these are ordinances, these are the things that we are to do. So it can be used in that context here. So let's move on. Now, here's the interesting one here. Now, this word also, mitzvah, was used 181 times throughout the scriptures in the Hebrew text. Now, here's where we're talking about the Ten Commandments. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go over to Deuteronomy 4 and 13. So, here's where everybody like to say Ten Commandments. Here's the word dabar that's being used, which means a word, which also means uh, beach, word, um, uh, but it doesn't mean commandments. It's either speech, a word, and there's one more thing. Let's go look at the definitions here, the dictionaries here. Oh, first I need to click on it, the commandments. So Strong says it's a word by implication, a matter of a thing. So one that has all these long words in it. But it also means song, speech, talk, counsel, decree, deed. When you see definitions this long in there, that lets you know how many times they replace the word commandment with uh, when this word is in play with a word or a speech. But let's look at Brown Driver Briggs. Much simpler. It means speech, word, speaking, or thing. Saying the utterance, words, business, occupation, act, matter, cause, case, something, manner. Now, when we look at Deuteronomy 14:13, and he declared unto you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform. 10 commandments he wrote them upon 2 tables of stones. So, of course, when you go to it, you're going to look at it. What does this say here, Shava? So, this where am I at? Right here. Not Shava. The word commandment here is dabar, which means words, which also means a speech, and which he was speaking. So in this context here, he said, and he declared unto you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even the 10 speech or the 10 things he wrote them upon 2 tables of stone. But here it was more of 10, it was 10 speeches. That's what it was in the context. Because when we look at each of the instructions for the contract, which is the covenant given to us, there was a speech with explaining each portions of those 10 speeches. So you heard it as 10 commandments, but you didn't hear it as a speech. And he declared unto you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform. Some texts will have 10 words, and he wrote them upon 2 tables of stone. So let's go and compare them to others. So here you will see King James Version with the Apocryphal commandments. King James plus commandments. Jubilees, 10 words. The Darby used here, the covenant command you to do 10 words, which also means speak, as we see here in the definitions. So whenever you hear the covenant, which is the 10 words, which you call the 10 commandments today, you can see how people can be confused when the word commandment is being used because they have severely overused the word commandment. So let's go on to uh, several other uses of the word commandments where you have uh, 84662 is mifkad, which means an appointment. That is a mandate. Or you have H2941 Tayam, which properly means a taste or an account for something. Um, or you will have it intertwined with the word H2942, which is TM, which is flavor or judgments. Like, for example, if we go to Ezra 421, Ezra. Let's see where you at here. Ezra. Pretty sure I passed up. First of all, let me go to the right book. Ezra 4:21. So what we got here, 4:21. Give ye now commandment to cause these men to cease, and that this city be not bullied until another commandment shall be given from me. So in this, well, let's look at and compare what some other was saying. Like here, they have the word commandment replaced with the word a decree, uh, or let's see, there's a decree here while everybody else has commandment. And of course, when we look at this stuff here, when we do the comparison, we want to go and look at what word is used here. So we have H2942, which is TM, which is equivalent to flavored, a judgment, a decree, regard, or to haste. So in this context here, when we look at this, give ye now a decree to cause these men to cease, or give an account to cause these men to cease, and that this city be not built until another decree or another command shall be given from me. So you can see how, like here, you got commandment. It says H2942 and commandment H2941. Each one has a different meaning to it. So when we look at this word again, so give ye now commandment 2942, we go look at 2942 and we look at and we see the term decree. Give ye now a decree to cause these men to cease, that this city be not built until a commandment, or we look at H2941, uh, and we look at what word is given as a definition here. And as we see TM here, it is until a command or an account shall be given from me, meaning that uh, now you know a decree is given an order towards something, right? So it has to be something that is proven or written to cause these men to cease what they were doing in that city. And also, for it's saying, city be not builded until um, an account or um, uh, a sentence or something that is coming from the person that's in authority, that it has to come from him for them to stop building. So, so we just looked at one, two, three, four, not four, four, five, six, seven different words in this short time period of the word commandment. And we haven't even gotten into um, the testimony of Hamashiach using the Greek words. We're just still going through the Hebrew words in itself, which you still have doth, which is H 1881, uh, where it is a derivative or a royal edict or a statute, commission, decree, law, or manner. So when we look at Esther uh, 3 and 14, we see how the word commandment is used here, 18881. The copy of this writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that they should be ready against that day. Of course, we can always compare it to see what the other books have said. Here it says a copy of the writing to be made law in the province of was published for all the people to be ready for that day. So when we go back into this, so for this word here, it could be substituted for law or a decree. So when we go into our studies, we can't just take everything as face value. It is very important for us to be able to go in and look at the words, how many times one word has been substituted when the meaning is something else completely. Then it brings out that scripture that you're reading that much more. And I'm just using the term commandment because it's overused, but it's so much more stuff that's within scripture that is overused or have a different meaning in it. So, like for example, we just read here in Esther 3:14 the copy of the writing for a commandment, right? 18:8:1. Let's look at the next verse. This is also lets you know how a word is replaced. So the priest, I mean not the priest, the post went out, being hastened by the king's commandment and the decree. But look at what we have here. 18:8:1, which is the same thing that we was looking at right here. That lets you know that that word was substituted in that verse. So um, now we can go further and look at other words, but I wanted to name and show a few of the words that's been overused in scripture, where you have the term, uh, where you have one term overused that has 15 to 30 different meanings, and I could be exaggerating for 30, but for a particular word, it can have up to 20 different meanings. So we have to pay attention to the context of what is written in that particular scripture. And when we continue on reading, we can see, like in what we just looked at for Esther 3:14 and 3:15, where we have the same Hebrew word, and we see it by using what the what is broken down as H1881, because each Hebrew word has a uh, letter and a number by it to help you get an understanding of what that means and that study, and it helps you study more. And it's the same thing when you go into um, the Greek writings, where you have the word commandment in Greek writing, and it has different meanings in it. Which, for example, if we go to um, Matthew 8 and 18, where it says, "Now when Yahushua saw great multitude about him, he gave commandment to depart unto the other side." So here the Greek word, which is like KUO, which is Greek word 2753, which was used 27 times in the New Testament, which means hail, and to incite by word that is order, bid, or command. So the word commandment wasn't here. He just gave a command or hailed, hey, hey, let's go. We're going over to the other side. Or we have the Greek word itole, which is the Greek 1785, which is injunction. That is an authoritative prescription, commandment, or precept. Most of the text meant precept in the Greek writing than it was injunctions. For example, when we go to Mark 12:30, when we go to Mark 12:30, and thou shalt love, is it Mark? Yeah, Mark 12:30, and thou shalt love Yahweh thy Elohim with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might, with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment, right? Because they substituted words, so you can always think about the Ten Commandments, not the 10 words or the 10 speeches, but the commandments. So, but as we study, we go in and look at what is the word actually saying, injunction, which also means precept, right? So when we look at this, it's more saying of this is the first precept, which inscribes is the instructions that's given to us from the covenant. And then you have other Greek words that's in there, in Ptolemy and par angelo and epitage, a which they also have as meaning injunction, but it also means decree or to transmit a message or a mandate or a charge. So when you get down into the weeds, it's always good to have a lexicon with you or software that has the lexicon in it so that when something sounds confusing, if something is overused, you're seeing it too many times, it's something that's telling you need to look at it some more. This is why. I hope this helped you out. Um, I hope this helped you out. It helped you go in a direction of studying more. Uh, but also leave your comments. I always take the comments under advisement and always looking to improve. Thank you for tuning in with to be better. Walk strong.